welcome to the Jankyard with Andrew and Kirk. I can't wait to see the janky-ass decks you came up with. Hope you like losing while staying on theme. A graveyard where good ideas come to die. Welcome to the Jankyard. Why don't you stick around for a spell? Get it? Because of Magic the Gathering. Hey, welcome to the Jankyard, everybody. My name is Andrew DeWitt, and my co-host over here is...
Kirk Johnson.
And we are... what is this show about, Kirk?
This show is about Magic the Gathering, which, if you're listening to this, you probably know what that is. If you don't know what that is, I don't know how the hell you found this podcast.
Well, thank you anyway. We appreciate you listening. The premise of the whole show is that we like to play Magic the Gathering, but we like to play with jank decks. Mm-hmm. And we like to make our own ridiculous little decks and set things up. And we're also going to I just got back into Magic the Gathering after more than 20 years off. And so we're going to kind of talk about how I got back into it and what I like about it now, what's different, because a lot of it's very different.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the premise of the show. So welcome everybody to the Jankyard. And let's get started here. Kirk, when did you start playing Magic the Gathering?
I started playing, it had to have been like 1995, around whatever time Ice Age came out.
Oh, cool.
Because I was in second or third grade, and I just remember a kid having like a random binder on his desk, and he opened it up, and I had no idea what I was looking at. I just saw this like cool dark art.
Yeah.
And as like a dorky kid, that spoke to me immediately, because there was, I grew up in Rochester, New York, and like soccer and football and sports in general were a big thing, and as like a nerdy kid, it was really cool to discover something like that it just opened up a whole world to me. So I've been playing pretty much consistently since then.
Was that your first experience with like a fantasy-based game?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool, man. So you didn't know about Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that before?
I probably had heard about Dungeons and Dragons in the context of don't play this because you're going to go to hell, or some, that was for bad kids, or garbage like that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, man. And have you consistently played through the years?
Yeah, I took a break. I sold like most of my collection, I think the year I graduated from college, because I got really into these like vinyl robot toys, and I was like, well, I'll just trade one Vice for another Vice. And then that didn't last that long, and bought my way slowly back in once I got interested in EDH, or I guess that's Commander now.
Oh yeah, Commander, and that's totally new to me, by the way. Because so I started playing in '94, so just about a year before you. I think I started playing right before Fallen Empires came out, and I was a huge dork too in a sports and conservative area, so we had our Dungeons and Dragons club shut down by parents who thought that we were trying to summon the devil. So we had that going on. I'd been playing Dungeons and Dragons for a long time as a kid, and I loved fantasy art and stuff like that. And when I saw this, I was like, what the hell is this? I was already collecting cards. I was collecting the X-Men cards and the Marvel cards. Yeah, dude.
I still have a few of those kicking around. I was looking through one of my boxes of Magic cards today and came across a Deadpool card from 1994 that my cousin gave me.
Oh, wow, dude. Yeah, I remember. I don't know if it was the Marvel or the X-Men one, but one of them had like power ratings on the back of the cards. Do you remember that? And my friends and I tried to make like a game with them where we were trying to use them against each other, like a card game kind of thing. And then right around that time, I started seeing Magic and going to like debate tournaments, I would say, which is like, I mean, it is, when we're in this deep, it's serious nerd stuff, because I was playing Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, Middle Earth, the role-playing game. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. That was by a company named ICE. And it was an incredibly complicated rule system. But that's how we got around the being banned from playing Dungeons and Dragons. We switched to the Middle Earth one, and people weren't as like weird about it.
That's funny.
But yeah, so I saw people playing this game called Vampire the Jihad. Do you remember that? And
I've
very
heard of
soon
it.
after, they had to change the name of that because there was some kind of terrorist attack or something. And so they had to switch the name. It was called Jihad, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then because then it didn't become like Vampire the Masquerade.
I think so.
Something like that. Yeah.
I saw the people playing with those cards, but the thing that stuck out to me most, I think the first Magic the Gathering card I saw was my buddy Tim played a Shivan Dragon. And I was watching them play, and I was like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" And I loved it, dude. And I remember I went out and I bought a whole bunch of Fallen Empires booster packs, and I had no lands. You know, the only lands I had was like Ebony Keep or whatever, where anything comes into play tapped, and you can sacrifice it for 2. And so that's what I was playing with as my lands. Like I had like no lands, and I remember getting like kind of hoodwinked and trading good cards for just like 20 basic lands or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is great. Now I can summon these creatures or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, that's how I got started. And then I played from 94 until like 2001 maybe. And then I just stopped until, gosh, it wasn't until last year when Wilds of Eldraine came out, and I started to get interested in it again.
Gotcha.
So, how many years off is that,
dude? If you stop,
22?
Yeah, something like that.
23 years off. Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing. Do you remember what you paid for your Fallen Empires packs?
I don't remember. I remember I could afford it with my allowance, though.
Right.
You know.
I was just at a comic book store this week looking for some things, and they had Fallen Empires packs. They were still $4.
Are they still $4?
Yeah, there were the guy had Ice Age packs for $30 a pop. Yeah. But the Fallen Empires ones, because nobody likes Homerids, man. They haven't broken that group wide open yet.
I love the Thalids, dude. When I first started with the Fallen Empire stuff, I thought that was awesome. Do you remember your first deck?
Yes. So I had, sort of. I think I remember getting a deck from my babysitter as a Christmas gift. And I can't remember. They used to do those like tournament packs that had a bunch of random cards from a set and then lands. Yeah. So that might have been what it was. It was Ice Age somewhere. I bet in my dad's house, a little rules booklet is still lurking around over there. But that, and then I think when I started playing, like started buying the pre-constructed ones around the time Tempest came out, because I have a really strong memory of being on like a school field trip in 3rd or 4th grade. We're like at a park and it's supposed to be a picnic and all the kids are running around, and me and my friend Matt are sitting at a picnic table, ramming shadow creatures at each other and having the greatest time ever.
And this was before people were putting down mats and putting their cards in little, what are they called? What, sleeves, I guess? Sleeves. All this stuff was new to me, dude. The idea of caring about your cards and like protecting them is crazy, because in the first edition, there was cards that they told you to rip it up after you used
Chaos. Well, there's Chaos Orb. What the was that? Yeah, Chaos Orb was the card. So the lore around Chaos Orb, it was, I can't remember if you dropped it and whatever it touched you destroyed. So some guy in a tournament like tore it up and sprinkled it all over the field.
That's right. Yeah.
And so when they did the first like joke set, which is oddly the only Magic cards my parents have ever purchased for me, were a bunch of boosters from Unglued. I don't know why the hell that was, where they were like, this is okay, these are completely useless, but whatever. They had a card called Chaos Confetti, which I think I still have somewhere, but that one says rip this thing up and sprinkle it on your opponent's cards.
And you used to have to ante up a card from your deck, which is a crazy idea. No one would do that now,
No. I mean, all those cards are banned. Like, they're all banned now. Nobody plays for ante.
Yeah, I remember in study hall playing for Auntie, and I got
Shit.
a Lord of the Pit from a guy, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is so rad!" I thought that was
That's
the coolest thing I'd ever seen. By the way,
dude, yeah. Lord of the Pit, like were there any cards when you first started playing that like freaked you out that like the art was like too creepy?
some of the what are they called? There was a black creature that was disgusting looking. Either in
Hmm.
Fallen, is it Thralls?
Oh, the Thralls,
The
man.
Thralls used
Yeah.
to like creep me out, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's scary." Lord of the Pit, I found scary too because wasn't he like 10-10 or something?
He's a big boy.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to do with that because at the time the biggest creature I'd seen was like some green worm that was like 7-7. I was like, it doesn't
Hmm.
get any more dangerous than
Yep. Yep.
that.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude, I had a great time playing, and that was also a different time because people weren't as online as much.
Hmm.
So people were really building decks in their heads. They weren't really copying anything. Like the hardest people we go up against were people who just had a lot of lightning bolts and fireballs, you know?
Right. Yeah, that was always. I mean, that was the fun of like it was middle school and high school. We would play during lunch, so
Yep, that's
it was
true.
just whatever you had, and those games were so fun. Like I remember a friend of mine, he had a three color, it was black, blue, and green. It was like 85 cards because he refused. Anytime he'd get something good in those colors, he'd just shove it into that deck.
Yeah, I was the same way, dude. My decks were so tall and ridiculous, but
Mhm.
also you could die of old age by losing all your cards, and that used to scare me. Scare me. And also, you could die from mana burn back then. That doesn't exist
Yep.
anymore.
No. There is a card, they printed one in the one of the commander sets, like commander whatever it was called. I can't think of the set, but that brings back mana burn. It's
Uh-huh.
a black, red, and green lizard,
Nice.
and he's cool. It's a people do not like playing against that, but yeah, dude, definitely remember mana burn and like the mana barbs being a pain in the ass. Spirit Monger was like an unstoppable monster that was. This is one of my favorite cards of all time. Like that was back before when it was like a rarity to see enemy colored like multicolored cards like you
Right.
get your green white your black red stuff and then I think that was Apocalypse. They started printing like green and black and they started
Yeah.
printing green and blue. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that kind of stuff because Legends was my first.
Mm,
That was the first time I'd seen multicolored cards in something, and I couldn't believe it. You know,
yeah.
I found some because I remember I tried to make a deck with Nebuchadnezzar. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah.
And I would use Urza's eyeglasses so
Hmm.
that I could look at people's decks because what you do is you tap cards and then you name whatever cards you guess what cards are in their hands, and if that's correct, they have to dispose of them. But I
Yep.
use the Urza's eyeglasses to make them throw away their whole hand, you know? And I thought it was the best thing ever.
Hell yeah. Dude, did you ever play in any tournaments or anything?
I didn't play in any tournaments until more recently. Um, we would do stuff sometimes in high school and college where we would have sleepovers and we would do like all night games with
Yep.
like just a ton of multiplayer people, and that was the shit, dude. I love that because also
Hmm.
we'll get into like when I started to get what I thought were like good decks, you
Yeah.
know. But that was when I figured out what I really liked and how I was playing at the time. And
Hmm.
my best like deck from when I was a kid was a Merfolk deck with a ton of island walk, phantasmal terrain,
Yep.
and count all those counter spells. And then in a group setting, counterspelling other people's counter spells and stuff like that. It was just so fun, dude. I
Yeah.
loved it. Do you remember your first deck where you were like, I think I've got this is a good deck. I'm good with this.
Um, I had a red green deck around the time that Odyssey came out. I think it was like a modified, 60 card pre-constructed thing that I thought was decent. And then I got walloped. I always like, especially then, I always fell into the trap of like here's this weird card that does this like thing that nothing else does, and
Right.
I'm going to build around that.
Yeah.
So Rochester had a pretty lively like legacy scene, and so there was this. It's still around. There is a game store called Millennium, and they would run legacy tournaments every Saturday or Sunday for $5. And so my friends and I would go, and I would bring my like. I distinctly remember bringing a terrible red and blue deck that revolved around this artifact that says whenever a player shuffles their library, it deals 2 damage to them. And then all of these like garbage cards that made people shuffle their library. And I sit down.
Yes.
And some guy is playing like this is when Survival of the Fittest was legal, which is like one of the best green cards of all time.
Oh yeah.
And just
yes.
getting
absolutely.
Just getting mowed down by like Survival Toolbox or Survival Elves.
Yeah.
And then I didn't learn my lesson because I came back probably a few months later with a deck based around the card Mortal Kombat, which is one of the alternate win cards. It's the black, like one of the OG black cards for, if X during your upkeep, you win the game. So it was if you have 20 or more creatures in your graveyard at the beginning of your upkeep, you win the game.
Right.
And I got style points from my opponents, but they just beat the bejesus out of me because I was playing terrible, terrible cards. And the little thing of like you have to wait till your upkeep. So I'd play it on my turn, and somebody always had removal for it.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like that with my Nebuchadnezzar stuff. Because I had built, so that was my first attempt at like trying to build a cohesive deck. Because my very first deck was just Sarah Angels and Wall of Swords and protection, Circle of Protections and stuff. Because I love the way Sarah Angel looked. I still love the way white cards look. Although at heart, I feel like I like the way blue players play, because I feel like they're tricky and funny. But I've always loved the way the art looks on white cards, so I'm a sucker for that. That deck sucked. Like it had nothing, it had nothing in it. It was just, I got a Sarah Angel now, and it's, I've got the Wall of Swords out, and it looks awesome, and that's it. But then when I tried to make the first deck I tried to make was that Nebuchadnezzar deck, and I had shoved in so much like removal stuff that I didn't have a way of killing my opponent. I was just making his life miserable.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't like it was 100% jank. It had no win condition. Like that was a foreign concept to me. It was just he kept discarding cards and throwing away his hand and stuff like that. And then I would have to attack with shitty creatures, I didn't have anything good. And then I like counter spells and stuff so much that I built a merfolk deck because it gave me an excuse to have counter spells in it that had a viable win condition, like I could island walk and pump up these merfolk with multiple Lords of Atlantis and then using clone on the Lord of Atlantis and all this other stuff. So I'd have 8 Lords of Atlantis on the board, really. And then island walking, they can't block. It was just so awesome. That was when I first started to be like, okay, I'm pretty good with this deck. Do you remember playing any of your friends who had decks that like you just couldn't beat at that time?
So like that one guy who had the blue, green, and black deck, it was like counter spells and things like he had one copy of Spirit Monger. Somehow he always got Spirit Monger into play. And then it was stuff like fucking Thresher Beast. Thresher Beast is a 4/4, and if you block it, you have to sacrifice a land. And so it was just miserable to play against that stuff because you just lose resources. So that was the first time I think I ever built a deck to metagame essentially. So I ended up building something that was like black, red, and blue, and it was just chock full of discard, counter spells, and direct damage.
Right.
So like this is the only way to get through this bullshit is to just blast him from all angles.
Right. Yeah, totally, dude. I remember the first time I saw one of my friends put down a Royal Assassin. I about shit my pants. I was like, what the fuck? You tap this motherfucker and he kills some shit? What the fuck is this? This is scary as fuck. But the most annoying deck was my buddy Alex, who's one of my best friends. He had a Jandora's Saddlebags deck. And I don't remember exactly. All I remember was none of us could beat this motherfucking thing. I don't know what it did, except it allowed him. I forget what Jandora's Saddlebags did. I just hated playing against it because he would go through his deck. He would get to pull out cards or something, then get to retrieve his Jandora's Saddlebags from the graveyard somehow and just keep doing it.
It lets you untap a creature.
Yeah. So that's what he was doing. He was like constantly. He was doing something with a creature that would do damage when you tapped it, and he was constantly untapping it. And then he had something else in there that would let him like rifle through his deck to get the best creature possible. And I had not had any experience going against fetch stuff. Yeah, that was like completely new to me. Other than Demonic Tutor was the only thing that I had ever seen that allowed you to do something like that. You know. Which is crazy when you think about it now. There's all these styles of play, and we didn't have names for them when I was growing up. It was just like, oh, this guy does this fucking shit where he poisons you or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I built a poison counter deck. I remember building that and all of the poison counter creatures were so bad because they'd cost like 3 or 4. They were 1/1s. They had no evasion, and then I think I used something to give them shadow. That was like my big play was giving my stupid creatures shadow.
Okay, so fast forward to today. What kind of decks are you playing now, Kirk? And how is it similar to when you were a kid playing?
So I play a lot of I think black green seems to be kind of my like core color combination. When we started to play, my friends and I, like more competitively when we were in college and stuff like that, I really liked the dredge mechanic. And the partially because I was a cheap bastard and never wanted to spend a lot of money on cards, and dredge was one of the cheapest decks you could build.
Yeah.
And and it was competitive and it played like nothing else in Magic because you did not care at all about what was in your hand. It was all about your graveyard.
Right.
So that a lot of the stuff that I build for like Commander is very graveyard centric. I really like playing lands. So like the main deck that I play with right now is the Necro Bloom, which basically gives all your lands dredge and produces tokens when you play a land. So I like that. I don't know. I just like the idea of like using your graveyard as a second hand and having recursive, hard to kill off threats.
Yeah, that is cool. I've always found it cool to see people play graveyard specific stuff or resurrection based kind of stuff. I love the way. I've never played it myself. I've always thought it looked awesome when people were doing it. So I just got into it last year, and the way I got into it was playing Pauper. You guys all know this if you're listening probably, but Pauper is a format where you use only commons, and it's a dirt cheap format to play. And I thought, oh, this is perfect for me and my daughter and my wife to get into without spending a fucking fortune on stuff. Because I looked at some of the decks, and a lot of people were like, well, if you're playing Modern or if you're playing Legacy or something like that, you can expect to spend this amount on a deck.
Oh, yeah. It's insane.
It's like a Warhammer army or more, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I can't justify putting $400 to $1,500 into a deck to play. That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, it's nuts.
So I was like, okay, well, Pauper is cheap as hell, and I have tons of old commons from when I was a kid. So we started playing Pauper, and then also my daughter really loved the artwork for Wilds of Eldraine, and now she loves Boomborough artwork too. And they have lots of really cool commons that you can play with. So I play a food deck in Pauper that uses Wilds of Eldraine and old Thrones of Eldraine. And it's basically like, here's the deal. I have to have a theme. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to have a concrete theme around what I play, or I'm not, I just don't get as into it, you know? Like, that's why I like Merfolk. That's why I love playing Goblins. That's why I like doing that kind of stuff. But if there's not a theme, I'm not. I don't. I will sacrifice a good deck for a themey deck, you know.
Yeah.
And so I can pull it up. I've rebuilt it on Arena as well.
Sweet.
But I play. It's a Pauper food deck where I use. It's like a Hansel and Gretel style like witch thing. So I use Tempting Witch and Sweet Tooth Witch, Feed the Cauldron, Savor, Minstrosity, Ginger Brutes, Shelob's Ambush, Not Dead After All, Scream Puffs, and stuff like that. And what I do is I just try to build up as many food tokens as I can, and then I use the witches to do damage to you with them.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a pretty casual deck for Pauper because you could play a lot harder with Pauper than that, but it's really fun and it's cool. And I've got little resin cakes that I use for my food counters. I should have brought them out. Oh dang it. Let me see if I can grab them real quick. Yeah, I'll grab them real quick and show you guys. Okay. But it's that's what's really exciting about it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's one of the fun things too. There's all sorts of like accessory and little things that you can do to add flavor to your deck. I'm gonna have to find out where you got these cakes because I have a food deck.
I moved them somewhere stupid and I can't find them right now, but they're gorgeous. No, okay. I got them on Amazon.
Okay, and, cool.
I'll send you the link to them, but they're like little cakes and little pies.
Yeah.
And they're like the perfect size for tokens. And there's something I love about generating a pile of really good looking tiny food and then using witches to kill people with it. Yeah. I just love it. I've got gingerbread men and witches and little candies and stuff, and I'm having a great time doing that. You know?
And that's one of the things that I really like about playing Commander is that you do get to do those theme things. Like I have a black and green food deck that I haven't played in a while, and now with between like Wilds of Eldraine and Bloomburrow, it's gotten a huge boost.
Oh, definitely. Did you put Bumbleflower Share Pot in your thing?
What
dude, it's great. It's an artifact, so it's colorless. So it's a 2-drop, and it's when Bumbleflower Share Pot enters, create a food token.
Dang.
And then you spend 5 and tap it to destroy the Share Pot and destroy any target non-land permanent activated.
That is, I'm gonna have to pick up a copy of that. Bloomburrow's had some killer like commons and uncommons. Every time I feel like every time I go to the shop, there's like some random common from that set that I need to pick up.
Dude, I love it. I've been playing Pauper with both my daughter and I are playing rabbit decks in with the Bloomburrow like Pauper stuff, and they're fantastic. They're really, really fun, and you end up buffing up the rabbits to the point where they get absolutely crazy. And for casual Pauper, that works. Some people do crazy stuff with Pauper. But I don't.
I've peeked at the card pool on and off, and like some of the things that are legal in Pauper, like it blows my mind that you can do awful things like cast Dark Ritual and exhume and reanimate stuff like that appeals, but I don't know. I think I'm going to stick with my one format because I only have enough space in my brain and in my budget for one thing at a time.
Yeah, knowing what I know now, I think I would probably do Commander. I've never played a game of Commander, actually, because I'm only a year deep into rejoining Magic. But Commander is also, you don't have to spend a fortune on your cards.
Yep.
You get the social component, which is awesome. You know, I love multiplayer games. I don't know about you, but multiplayer games are much more fun for me. I love making little alliances and going after people or people betraying you and doing stuff. I can't get enough of it. That's how I like to play Warhammer. My buddy John always gets on me about that. He goes, that's not realistic. There's never been a war where there's like 4 different armies there. I go, who gives a shit, man?
Exactly. Like I'm a wizard. Let me be a wizard, damn it.
Yeah, exactly. And also I don't know what it is, but like if I'm losing in a multiplayer game, I don't care about it nearly as much as I do if I'm losing one-on-one. I just feel the sting of that where I'm like, oh fuck, this sucks. I got this fucking asshole over here, you know, like, and you also, there's less socializing too, which I'm there to do, to hang out with other geeks and like eat potato chips and have a good time, you know?
Yep. That's why, like, the guys I play with on Tuesday nights, we play at this death metal brewery. We get pizza, and we play Magic and just like goof around. I mean, we had a thing last week. I know I was telling you about it before, where somebody had opened Flubs the Fool, which is like a weird card from the Bloomborough.
You love this card, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I love that. It didn't connect to me until one of the guys pointed it out. Like, the art on it is the classic like Rider Tarot Fool card.
Yeah.
So we all built Flubs decks, and it was a fun experiment playing this against each other.
Yeah, that sounds great, man.
Yeah, those turrets are so long.
Yeah, I bet though. Although sometimes I've seen people play Commander where it looks like they're playing solitaire, where they're just like being like, okay, I tap this, I go through my deck, I shuffle this, I pull these cards up, I generate these tokens, I do this, and I go, oh my god, dude, that's got to be rough.
Yeah, there are times, and like, it's one thing, like I'm fine sitting through somebody having a long turn if they're going to win that turn. Like, they're doing their thing, the game's going to be over. Cool. Like, show me the thing. But there have been so many games where you sit there and somebody just they spend 15 minutes resolving a bunch of triggers that don't advance the game. Like,
right.
Cool. You drew 2 cards. Everybody lost 2 life. Like, who cares? Don't waste my time. And
yeah.
There have been plenty of times where like I have like theory crafted or whatever a deck where like, oh, this is gonna, like, I love these interactions. This is gonna be a cool theme. And then I sit down and I play it and I'm like, oh, these turns take too long. And I just take it apart because, it's fun, but you don't want to have people just sitting there on their phones while you're doing 17,000 things,
Right. Where you're just basically, you've set up a machine in your deck and you're basically running ones and zeros and on-off switches to make your deck work, which I guess, I mean, you're getting to do something every turn, so that's kind of cool, but everyone else is kind of waiting on you.
Yep.
I am building my first Commander deck right now. Hold on a second, I got it right here.
You're good.
I'm doing goblins.
Yeah, hell yeah. I gotta send you some goblins. I found some more when I was going through my stuff, especially Goblin Recruiter, because that guy's a bastard.
Oh yeah, that guy's awesome. So I've got a bunch of my old ass goblins in here who are hilarious, like Goblin Snowman and the fucking Ski Patrol and all that stuff, and they suck. But they're hilarious and they cost 1 mana, so who cares? You just need the goblins on the board, dude. You know? But I think I'm going with Muxus Goblin Grandee as my commander.
Hell yeah.
I love the art on him, first of all. And then second of all, he has the guys who are carrying him on the card are his brothers, his twin brothers, and they all share being king on a different day of the week. Did you know that?
No.
Which is hilarious to me. I can hold the card up a little bit here. I don't know if you can see that. You can't really see it.
Yeah, here, let me I'll pull it up.
Screen share it.
Yep. Give me a second here. We'll open the thing in Scryfall. This podcast is brought to you by Scryfall.
I'll be pulling up some Scryfall stuff in a second here.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Muxus he's such a cool card. I was so excited when this got spoiled.
The art on it is gorgeous. I love the art on Goblin cards in general because it's funny and it's kind of lighthearted. And also, he does look like a cool commander, And then I have a secret commander in my deck, which is Krenko Mob Boss. Because otherwise, Krenko is going to get... you can't put this guy down as your commander. Like, this motherfucker create X11 red goblin creature tokens, where X is the number of goblins you control, this can
Mhm.
get out of hand so fast.
Oh, it does. There's a guy in our group that plays Krenko, and there was a game where there was it just worked out numbers wise. There were three of us, so it was me. I was playing some variation of I was playing Slogurk the Overslime, which is just this
Yeah.
doofy green blue lands deck.
Yeah.
And then, I'm just sitting there like, oh, I play a land. Okay, I'm passing my turn. And Krenko has about 50 goblins on the board, and the guy next to me is playing what's that card? Oh, damn it. It's from Scourge. It's not really a good card at all. But you choose like at the beginning of your upkeep, you choose a creature type, and creatures that type get, I think, +3/+3 in haste until end of turn. And then Karona, that's what it's called. Karona False God. And then it changes, everybody gets a turn with Karona. But he was also playing goblins. So all of a sudden there are about 1,500 goblins on the battlefield, and I'm sitting there like hoping to draw a fog or something, but I just got murked in the first probably 5 or 6 turns.
Oh, dude, yeah, dude. I totally get it. But that's why I didn't want to put I'm not gonna put Krenko as my commander because it draws too much attention right away because it's so crazy. But I've got old goblin cards in here that I'm really excited about, like Phil Foglio's Goblin Surgeon, which is great. And then Goblin Ski Patrol, which is super funny to me because it says fly. You can give it for 1 in a red. You can give it flying, and you give it a flying and +2/+0 at the end of the turn. Barry Goblin Ski Patrol. Use this ability only once and only if you control any snow-covered mountains, because they have to ski down the snow-covered mountains. And then the quote on the card, this is why I love goblins, man. The quote on the card is, "Aye?"
Yep.
And that is Ib Halfheart, Goblin Tactician, which that quote is him just skiing down a mountain and dying. He's just
of course.
dying.
I mean, he's in the art. He's getting wrecked. If you look in the background, this goblin clearly has wiped out his friend as he's coming down.
Yes. I love that. I've got Goblin Snowman in here, which it sucks for what it is because it's a 4 mana, and it's a 1/1, but it receives no damage when it blocks in combat because they're all hiding behind the snowman.
Oh yeah,
which
is
is
fantastic,
hilarious. And then you can tap them to deal 1 damage to the target creature that it blocks because they throw a snowball at it.
Yeah, just a little goblin peekaboo.
Yeah, exactly. And that kind of stuff, I just can't get enough of that kind of stuff. Just dumb, funny things that you can have your goblins do.
You should check out some of the goblins from like Onslaught. They have a very similar vibe, both with the art and with like the function of what they do. I can't remember if it's a goblin card or if it's a version of Shock, but I think it just says nothing beats rock, and it's like some goblin. And then there is one of my favorite commander cards in red especially is Toggo Goblin Weaponsmith.
Is that the guy with the giant helmet on who's going like, bleh?
No, I think that's Ib Halfheart.
Yeah, I want him too because he's so funny looking.
Yes.
Oh, and that's Ib Halfheart who says "ie."
Yeah, and he's got flavor text on the Goblin Snowman too.
Yeah.
So this is Toggo. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you create a colorless equipment artifact named Rock. With equipped creature has 1, tap it, sacrifice Rock, it deals 2 damage to any target.
Nothing beats rock.
Nothing beats rock.
That's great, dude. That's why I like to play it, because if I'm having fun laughing at my own cards, like I'm having a good game. Man.
And I love doing stuff like that. Like when I played Toggo, I got a bunch of Geodude, like old Pokemon Geodude cards, and those were my rocks.
Yeah.
And one of the other cards I love, one of my favorite black-green cards is this troll called Grismold. And Grismold, at the end of your turn, gives everybody a plant token.
Yeah.
And then whenever a creature token dies, he gets a +1/+1 counter. So he just gets jacked off of eating plants, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Oh, I forgot. In the Phil Foglio Goblin Surgeon, he is stitching a Llanowar elf's head onto like a tiger man's body, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, it is the body of the card from like Natural Balance. Here, I'll pull it up.
Yeah, that's it.
That's like,
he's doing shout outs in his own artwork to other cards, which is hilarious to me.
What is it? It's like Natural Selection, because it's like, I remember seeing the art on that. It makes no sense whatsoever, because it's here. I got it.
Yeah, but I love that kind of stuff. Yes, that's it. That's the body from Natural Selection.
Yeah, he's like, I'm a tiger eagle man. Here, have this peach. And then, like,
what was the copy for that for the artist? I wonder. You know,
I'm wondering if it's because so much of that early art, like, because that was an alpha, like, so much of that early art was just like, hey, we need art for this fantasy game. What do you got?
I think you're right about that, except for I guarantee you Foglio was doing it for the cards.
Oh, for this? Yeah, for sure.
It's like super funny. And that's going to segue to another section here that we're going to try to do every episode. Which is I got into Magic the Gathering because I thought the art was so awesome. Kirk, I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, of course.
It's a big part of everyone. I think just generally what draws people to the game, you know? And so I thought what we could do is we could bring up an old card that we love the art of, and then a relatively newer card that we love the art of, and talk about why we like them. Did you have something ready to go? Because I got something if you...
Yep, I do.
Okay, cool.
I got the very first card I ever saw. There were like two cards. There he is. So this is Shambling Strider.
Yeah, he's great. Who's the artist on this?
That's Douglas Shuler.
Okay, cool.
And so I remember the kid, his name was Santino. Santino opened this binder, and it was this card that caught my eye first. And I was like, what the hell is this? Is like, he's creepy, he's in the snow, and then you get down to the flavor text. And I am like such a nerd for good flavor text that matches the art.
Me too.
And so I'm reading this, and I'm in third grade, so I'm like, what the hell is a Freelize? And then forbids that strangers wander into this thing's territory. Like, what the hell is this? And that was it. Like, after seeing this, I was like, I need to play this game.
Yeah, it looks awesome. It's got a kind of what does it look like? It looks sort of like the guy who used to draw Lobo all the time in DC Comics. What's that guy's name? I forget now. But he had a Frazetta kind of style to him. You can see it in the teeth and the shoulders, and that's some very 90s. It's almost like this guy could have been like Wolverine or Sabretooth's uncle. You know?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a cool 90s sort of Marvel Comics character design to that card.
And I don't know if this is intentional or how this happened, but there's that little red line on its arm. So it's is it bleeding? What the hell? I don't know. It's just everything about that captured my 8-year-old imagination.
Yeah, I love it. So let me share. Let me see. I'm going to share my screen here too, because I was talking about Foglio, and Foglio is one of my favorite artists. Phil Foglio and Kaja Foglio, one of my favorite artists.
Yes.
We have here Unlikely Alliance, and I thought this card was so awesome when I was a kid.
Yep,
because you've got a what do they call green Cyclops lady with a huge battle axe, basically wearing lingerie, marrying some dude who's dressed up like Mozart, and the parents are crying in the background because it's the wedding. It's great, dude. I love this card. I thought it was super funny.
Oh my god.
And it's kind of a good card too, and it's an enchantment where target non-attacking, non-blocking creature gets +0/+2 to the end of the turn. I thought it was interesting, and I loved this card in particular. Really stood out to me, and I remember trading for a copy of it just because I liked the art, not because I was going to use it in a deck, because I wasn't even playing white at the time.
Yeah, there was a card shop in Rochester. Like, it was more of all kinds of different like hobbies, whatever, sports cards, called Heckle and Jekyll, and they had these big boxes of 10 cards for $1, and my friends and I would go on Saturdays and just spend hours going through those boxes. And I remember coming across this card, like, I'm never going to use this, but this art is too good to pass up for 10 cents.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, just the longer you look at it, the time that he put in with the expressions on people's faces, that like, the guy under the Cyclops' armpit, like, what the hell? It's great.
Yeah, there's a whole wedding ceremony going on.
Yeah.
And I wonder, hilarious to me.
Like, if the original art for it is a larger painting and they cropped it, I'd be curious to see.
Oh yeah, I wonder. I'm sure he's got some of that stuff on his website. I'll check that out. Did you have a card from more recently that you really like?
Yes, I do. Where'd it go? Flubs. Here it is. This one's from Bloomborough.
Okay.
It is this one. So, Ruthless Negotiation.
Oh yeah, great looking card. God, dude, that art looks awesome.
It's like stained. It's got like a stained glass vibe. It's very. I was huge into the Redwall books when I was in elementary school.
You must love Bloomborough, dude.
Yes, this is like, and I know we've talked about this, and like some of my talking to my friends. This is the first set in quite a while that feels like a Magic set from when I was a kid. Like, with the art,
every
the power
card
level
I've seen, it does remind me of those old Magic sets too, the way they play, and you can make good stuff out of just about anything, Yeah,
I just love when the name of the card, the art, and like the function, flavor text all kind of come together. I think those are always my favorite cards.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. I have a card that I don't play and don't own, but I love the card so much that I thought about, would I make a commander deck out of this card?
Okay.
Which is it's Ghoul Collar Jisa.
Oh yeah.
And she is gorgeous.
Dude.
This is by Carla Ortiz, who I love anyway, because Carla Ortiz, I don't know if you know this or not, but she is one of the artists who has been leading the fight against the AI stuff.
Oh, okay.
To stop artists from losing jobs. She's been at the front of this, heading up a lot of these lawsuits where people, were trained on her artwork without her permission and stuff like that. So I already feel indebted to her just because she's doing that. But this chick, I want her to be my girlfriend, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, she looks gorgeous in this picture. I've never seen her look better than this, because she's in other artwork. But
no, her expression.
Yep, totally. Her expression, the way the lighting looks on the card, how like she's got the shovel over her back in like a cocky way. Her hands are filthy because she's been digging up dead people. It just looks awesome. She looks awesome. And I just can't get enough of it, to the point where I was like, oh, maybe I could make I could do a commander out of this.
Oh yeah, you should. There's so many cool things to do with Gisa. Like, I've had her, and it got to the point like where,
is it Gisa or Gisa? Because I can never.
I don't know if it's Gisa. I don't know. Well, I think I've said it
let us know
all sorts of different ways, but when I was building this black and white commander deck, where it was all legends matter, because the commander, whenever a legendary creature you controlled would die, it would make a non-legendary zombie version of it.
Yeah.
And so like I was trying to track down that printing of Gisa, just because like the other ones, I don't know, like I want the cool art. Like that's always, I will always like, if I can't find the art that I want for a card, I won't run it in the deck until I can pick up that version.
I agree. I'm the same way. I like the art I like. I want the version that I like. I got the Goblin Matrons I got in that I put in my deck were the ones where it looks like the sort of artwork from Brian Froud, who did the art for Dark Crystal.
Oh, that's Dieter Lizzie.
Yeah.
I have every card that guy has ever illustrated. He is one of my favorite.
Fantastic artists.
Oh.
Fantastic. Yeah, so definitely, I love that kind of stuff. I have one more card from Bloomborough I want to show you guys. And if you are just listening, we'll have a YouTube channel set up so you can see all this as we're talking too.
Hell yeah.
And that'll be in the show notes. But let's see here. Let's go with is it right? It's right here. It's Heartfire Hero, which is Mouse Soldier.
Oh
yeah. He's a 1 red and he's a 1/1, but his abilities are fantastic for an uncommon card. He's got Valiant. Whenever Heartfire Hero becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Heartfire Hero dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So that's fantastic. If you're playing Pauper Commander, he's an uncommon, so he makes a fantastic Pauper Commander as well.
Oh, I'm gonna have to build a Pauper Commander deck, I think. Meet you in the middle.
But I mean, Commander's affordable enough that like you're gonna spend around the same kind of money on that kind of stuff. But I thought that guy was cool. I love Redwall too. I've always been like, why wasn't there an animated? Was there an animated series for Redwall?
There was. They did a thing on PBS, but like the quality was not great. I feel like, they were working with not the best budget because it's PBS, but
that makes sense.
I hope they at some point revive that and like Netflix grabs it or somebody grabs it and does something along those lines.
And there's also a comic book. What is that comic book called where it's like all the mice?
Mouse Guard.
That shit looks awesome as fuck.
Yeah, Mouse Guard is really cool. I got one more card from Bloomborough too.
Oh yeah, definitely show me, man.
Let's find. Nope, it is this one. So this is Lumra Bellow of the Woods.
Fantastic
as a lands player. Like I knew as soon as this was spoiled, I was going to run it in Necro Bloom. But this, I like waited until I could pick up this art just because the screaming bunnies are hysterical. Like,
and who is that? Forrest Emmel who does that art? Can you scroll
this
down?
is
no, it's not. Okay,
Japanese guy named Mitsushiro Arita.
Okay,
but Vigilance Reach, its power and toughness are equal number of lands you control, and when it enters the battlefield, you flip the top 4 cards of your library and return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is like a big win condition for me right now.
Gorgeous looking card.
Yeah. Like really the pine cones, just so
and that's
cool.
One of the alternate art cards, right? Because there's no border on there. There's some of the anime alternate art cards are fantastic too. I got the Japanese version of what is it? Spark? What is that? Shock.
Oh yeah.
Shock. Where it does two damage or whatever, but the Japanese version looks sweet as hell.
Yeah.
So I pop that in one of my decks too, just because of just a cool thing. I love that they're doing this with this alternate art stuff.
I do too, and it's like they do the alternate art, they do some of the secret layer stuff, and I've gone back and forth on the secret layers, but they've brought back some of the older artists. Like there's so I'm trying to think of when it might have been one of the Modern Horizon sets where they have Richard Kane Ferguson doing art again, which he has such a surreal style. Like a lot of his stuff was in alliances and like visions and stuff like that. And seeing that they're like reaching out to those older artists and like giving them a chance to showcase their amazing work again is great. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I can't get enough of the art. Like we're saving the art cards too because we got the Bloomborough. What is it? The box thing.
Yeah, the bundle.
The bundle, yeah, we got that because I liked having I like the way the card box looks. It comes with counters, comes with a really cool 20-sided die with a paw on it for 1 in 20, which I really like. And then the packs have the cool art cards in them too, which I like a lot. I love that stuff. Well, that's cool, dude. I think that's our episode for what we're gonna do here, Kirk. So, like,
hell yeah,
you guys like this? Tell your friends about the show, the Jankyard. We'll be covering more decks. We just kind of wanted to give an intro about what we're into and Magic and why we like it so much. Where can they find you on social media, Kirk?
I'm not super on social media. I guess the follow for social media for me would be the Schemes Come True Network, which is a podcast I do with my friend Corey, where we interview artists and creative people like Mr. Andrew DeWitt.
I've been on it.
Yeah, so check that out. What about you, Mr. Andrew?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DeWittiot. And then I also have an additional Instagram for my miniature painting that's at DeWittiot Paints. And then if you guys are into web comics and stuff like that, I do a Wild West web comic that is often in the top 100 on top web comics, which is called Tarnation Lucille. And you can check that out on Comic Fury and Tapas, and it's a launch title on Fables, which is a new web comic platform that's coming out. And it's about a Wild West half demon lady who is a bounty hunter. She's got a little tiny pig guy that follows her around. He looks sort of like Oolong from Dragon Ball. It's a manga inspired web comic. And if you like my artwork, I sell counters as well. I sell tokens on my Instagram. You can follow the link to my token page where I make little tokens of rabbits and spirits, all sorts of cool stuff, all kinds of stuff like that. You can check that out on my Instagram at DeWittiot. And I'm also partnered with Inked Gaming if you want to get any playmats. I've got a couple really cool playmats out there. And we'll do some giveaways too, I think, in a future episode where I'll give away some of that stuff. So check that out. You just look for Andrew DeWitt on Inked Gaming. And and that'll do it for us. Let us know too, once this episode goes live and you're listening to it, if you hit us up on our socials and let us know what kind of jank you like to play. And we'd love to read out some of your jank and
jank of the week.
Tell us why you play it too. Like what about it interests you, and what you get out of it when you're like, oh, I just love this card sucks, but I love to put it on the table. That's what we want to hear from you guys.
That's what it's all about, man.
And then until then, just keep janking it out, everybody. Bye.